ground, and that we do have with humanitarian laws and human.
Hello and welcome to Deep Dive on NewsX World. I'm Thomas Porteous, and tonight we turn our focus to Bangladesh, a country at a critical crossroads. What started as the assassination of a student leader has spiraled into widespread unrest, attacks on minorities, an assault on the press, and deep questions about whether Bangladesh can hold free and fair elections in February of next year. This is not just a domestic crisis. What is unfolding in Bangladesh could have serious consequences for the entire South Asian region. Let's break it down. Sharif Osman Hadi, a 32-year-old youth leader and key face of last year's uprising that toppled Sheikh Hasina, was shot in broad daylight in Dhaka by a motorcycle-borne gunman. Hadi was not just another political activist. He represented a new, angry, post-Hasina generation, deeply distrustful of institutions and openly critical of India and the political elite. When he died, after days on life support in Singapore, the streets erupted. Students poured out in thousands, protesters turned violent, government buildings, highways and political offices came under attack. And soon the anger found new targets. One of the most alarming developments, the targeting of Bangladesh's independent press. The offices of Prothom Alo and the Daily Star, two of the country's most respected newspapers, were stormed, looted and set on fire. Journalists were trapped inside burning buildings. Printing presses fell silent for the first time in decades. However, this wasn't random chaos. This was a message that in today's Bangladesh, even the media is no longer safe. When newsrooms burn, democracy burns. As political violence intensified, Bangladesh's most vulnerable communities once again found themselves in the crosshairs. In May Mymensingh, a 25-year-old Hindu garment worker, Deepu Chandra Das, was beaten to death by an angry mob following rumours of blasphemy. No evidence, no witnesses, only mob justice. His killing has sent shockwaves across the country and reignited long-standing fears among religious minorities, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, who together form less than 10% of the Bangladeshi population. Now, sadly, this is not an isolated incident. Since Sheikh Hasina's fall in 2024, attacks on minorities, temples and homes have surged, often during moments of political uncertainty. History tells us why. Every time Bangladesh enters a power vacuum, minorities pay the price. Minority protection is often the first casualty when rule of law weakens, and right now Bangladesh is experiencing a fragile interim government, distrust in police and in the courts, politicized street power and rising radical rhetoric. When mobs act with impunity, it signals state failure, and for minorities it signals something much worse: fear without protection. Now, according to the 2022 census, Muslims make up the majority at 91.04% of the population. Hindus account for 7.95%, while Buddhists, Christians and other religious groups form the remaining minority communities in Bangladesh. Now, all of this is unfolding just weeks before Bangladesh is supposed to go to the polls in February of 2026. And the interim government, led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, is under enormous pressure to restore law and order, to protect minorities, to guarantee press freedom, and to ensure elections are credible. But with protests ongoing, institutions under attack, and political polarization deepening, the election's legitimacy is already under question. Can democracy survive in an atmosphere of fear? What this means for South Asia, and here's where Bangladesh's crisis becomes a regional concern. Bangladesh sits at the heart of South Asia, bordering India, Myanmar, and close to Nepal and Bhutan. Instability here doesn't stay contained. India is watching very closely, concerned about spillover, unrest, and rising anti-India sentiment. Myanmar, already unstable, could see new refugee pressures. Regional trade and connectivity projects are currently at risk, and extremist groups across South Asia are closely observing whether street violence can overpower the state. If Bangladesh, once hailed as a South Asian economic success story, descends into prolonged instability, it sets a dangerous precedent that protests can replace institutions, that mobs can override justice, that minorities can be silenced without consequence. What defines Bangladesh today is raw uncertainty, anger, grief, and distrust. Students say justice hasn't been delivered. Minorities say protection is missing. Journalists say freedom is under threat, and the government is racing against time. Bangladesh is not just battling unrest, it is battling a test of democratic soul. We're now joined by Shoaib Chowdhury, the editor of The Blitz, joining us live from the Bangladeshi capital of Dhaka. Thank you very much for joining us, Shoaib, to discuss this, and glad you are safe. Let's get straight into this. How has Sharif Osman Hadi's assassination affected public trust in institutions in Bangladesh right now?
Thank you very much, Thomas. You see, this following the assassination and actually attack, and then he was declared dead 2 days later. The Bangladesh has witnessed mayhem of the Islamist and radical forces. As you have mentioned, there was attack on the offices of Daily Star and Prathamago, which are the largest dailies in this country. And only yesterday, the same group of people, they have called for killing, I quote, killing the journalists of Daily Star and Prathamago by hunting them at their residences and houses. So this is a very serious situation. At the same time, they have set this afternoon, 5 p.m. in Bangladesh, as a deadline of arresting the killers of Hadi. Otherwise, they demanded resignation of the Home Advisor, Lieutenant General Jahangir Alam Chaudhry, and others. So it is some kind of, I can say, it's kind of an increase in flexing of muscle by the Islamist and radical forces. And also, as you know, that 25th of December is another deadline set by those mob who had attempted to attack Indian High Commission on 18th of December. They have also set this date, 25th December, according to them. If the killers will not be sent back to Bangladesh, I mean, if they, in their opinion, killers are in India. If Sheikh Hasina is not extradited to Bangladesh, then they say they will intrude into the Indian High Commission in Dhaka, and also India's Assistant High Commissions in other parts of the country. And they also categorically threatened of physically assaulting Indian diplomats and forcing the Indian High Commissioner from leaving this country. So this is a very dangerous situation. You are also a journalist, and being a journalist, I cannot even think of such scenario that anywhere in the world we might have seen.
Indeed. And of course, following the lynching of Deepu Chandra Das, a Hindu man in Bangladesh, of course, we know that Bangladesh has a very, very significant Muslim majority. 91% of Bangladesh's population are Muslim. But what is the current situation for minorities in Bangladesh, especially after these recent attacks?
As you have mentioned, the case of the very tragic, unbelievable and unbearable murder of Dipu Chandra Roy, the Hindu youth. And then at the same time, I mean, this regime, Yunus regime, they are playing foul with this case because they say they have arrested 10 suspected killers, but the killers are seen clearly in the video. When they have arrested them, they did not place on remand for interrogation. It is, in my opinion, this is nothing but an attempt of eyewash by the Yunus regime. And only yesterday, another Hindu youth named Gopal Roy alias Govind Rai, he was a rickshaw puller, he is a rickshaw puller, and because he was wearing a Hindu spiritual wristband, and because while pulling the rickshaw, he chanted Jai Ma Durga, I mean praising the goddess Durga, he was immediately captured by the nearby passers-by, and they said he is an Indian agent, and they severely beat him and then handed him over to police in blood. And when the police was almost taking Gopal from this crowd to save him, crowd again tried to snatch him from the police. So you can possibly understand what is the degree of threat, intimidation and fear the Hindus are currently facing in Bangladesh.
Yes, and Shoaib, of course, we've spoken about this previously, but how are journalists coping with these threats and attack on the media in the country?
How much actually this attack is, as I said, these are all well orchestrated attacks, I can only say. And to stop it and save the religious minorities, particularly Hindus in this country, and Indian High Commission and Indian business establishment in Bangladesh, I think there should be a lot of pressure from the international community. There should be lots of voices for example, like NewsX World is doing this, and other international news platforms should also do the same thing. Unless people the world hear what is happening exactly in Bangladesh, I don't see any solution to it. The only solution lies with the raising this issue to the international community as prominently as possible.
And of course, Shoaib, Bangladeshis go to the polls in February of next year, with of course huge questions surrounding the credibility, the legitimacy of Muhammad Yunus's interim government and his ability to execute free and fair elections. What challenges does Bangladesh face in holding free and fair polls?
Thomas, you see, the February 12th election is a tricky game of Muhammad Yunus, because on the election day, he is also holding a referendum to give legitimacy to his so-called July Charter on the same day. So say, whatever is the result of the election, if Yunus wins the referendum, I mean, if he gets public mandate through the referendum, then Yunus, this July Charter will be placed above the constitution of Bangladesh. And Bangladesh constitution will become null and void. The president will be removed. The army chief and other constitutional post holders will be removed. And Yunus will proclaim himself as the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, and transform this illegitimate interim regime into a revolutionary government. So whatever the result is on February 12th, the election result, it will have no impact, because the referendum, it will pave the path for Yunus in becoming the supreme leader, declaring a revolutionary government, and remain in power indefinitely.
Shoaib Chowdhury, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to speak to you here on NewsX World. I'm sure we'll hear from you again as those elections creep up to us with time. Well, that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching at NewsX World for more issues explained and international updates. Thank you.